in the last 3 days, citizens believe that the way the SSPDF behave and the organized forces, these are something that has never been happening before. What makes them to be so disciplined?
First and foremost, I think is the creation of awareness we have been embarking on. Since the signing of the Revitalized Peace Agreement, we have been creating awareness among our security forces in the training centers, at barracks, during morning parades, and we intensified that creation of awareness prior to the arrival of His Holiness the Pope. They were thoroughly briefed at ICT, Buluk. We held a number of parades telling them about the need for them to behave well, to cooperate with the local population, and we cautioned them on a number of areas, and I'm happy that the outcome of the joint work we did with other stakeholders, including volunteers, brought a very successful outcome, and everyone is, I'm happy to hear that the local population was impressed with our behavior. And if there's the case, then we are encouraged, and of course we'll keep that in that direction. We'll keep on improving.
So what are you going to do to keep it improving?
Of course, you know, when you get positive feedback, like the way I'm getting from you, I'm very sure you are a journalist. Maybe the public opinion is what you are sharing with me. So when you are given a positive feedback, then of course you keep on improving on what you are being commended for. And you work very hard to minimize the shortcomings that were observed. Like when you send me the questions, there are a session which will touch on the challenges that we had faced during his visit and measures that were put in place to counter the challenges. So we'll come to that later.
Yeah. Now, the visit of His Holiness, though it was more of religious, we believe also our army are part of the forces.
It was very important in many ways, but I'll only point out about two areas. First and foremost, South Sudan is, I would say, is a Christian nation. In the world, that's Catholic, traditional gods. So if South Sudan of Christians, we identify ourselves with the religious leaders that came. So it was a recognition of our faith in Christ that made the three leaders to come together and visit South Sudan. They know very well it is a stronghold of Christianity in East Africa. So it was, they viewed it like that, and they recognized our faith in Christ. That was one important. There's SSPDF. We have chaplaincy, which is a complete directorate that takes care of the spiritual needs of the organized forces. And we have a training center or a college in Nimli where our chaplains go for training. Then they come out as ordained pastors, as trained evangelists, mobilizers. So it also was very important to us that we are part of the larger Christian family, and it's coming also was it's like an olive branch that was being extended to us, and we were very happy to take part. Like when we were holding our parades, we would start with prayers, which is an indication that we are an organized force that is also dedicated to service of God and humanity.
Thank you so much, Major General, and to our viewers, thank you so much for following African Morning Breakfast Show. We're coming to you live right here in our studio from South Sudan capital, Juba, and helping us understanding the role that has been played by South Sudan People Defense Forces and the organized forces during the visit of His Holiness Pope Francis, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Welby, and the moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland, Hindbren. Right here, let's have a break. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back, dear viewer. Thank you so much for following African Morning Breakfast Show. We are talking about the role that has been played by South Sudan People Defense Force and the organized forces during the visit of His Holiness Pope Francis to the Republic of South Sudan. As you well know, that SSPDF and the organized forces has been playing a major role in subguiding the people of the Republic of South Sudan and the properties during the 3 days of apostolic journey of His Holiness to the Republic of South Sudan. Major General, welcome back.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, as we went for break, I want us to look into the challenges that you encounter during the 3 days visit. We know that it is not easy to be disciplined army and cooperating with the citizen, in which some citizens, others are traumatized, others, they have their own personal problem, and at the end of the day, you have to manage them as the security forces. What have you done by that time in regard to how maybe you experience some challenges?
And let me put that question to be the last one, because I had followed the sequence of the questionnaire, and the question that I'm having here is, how did SSPDF perceive the visit of His Holiness that made them to keep law and order in Juba and across the country? So we'll come later to the challenges.
Yes, you can answer
yeah,
that.
it will
well.
come.
Yes, no problem.
Last one.
Yeah.
Regarding this question is that how did we perceive the visit of His Excellency, of His Holiness the Pope? We in the SSPDF and the other organized forces perceived or viewed his visit in many ways, but I will only focus on three areas. First and foremost, it is good to understand or to underscore that His Holiness the Pope is a head of state called Vatican. Is the head of that, is one of the smallest countries in the whole world, and therefore, being the head of a state, he was viewed of having a status equivalent to a president, and therefore he qualified for a protection that is accorded to visiting heads of state, and therefore we have to put in place maximum security measures to ensure his safety. That was one perception. Secondly, His Holiness the Pope is the leader of the largest, or one of the largest Christian denominations in the whole world, church. Security risks to the people that he's visiting and to himself. And why am I saying this? If you could remember, in May 1981, His Holiness John Paul II was shot and wounded in an assassination attempt on his life in Rome. And after that assassination attempt on his life, the security was beefed up around any person that gets elected as a pope. And if you could see that white band, it was introduced after the assassination attempt on His Holiness Pope John Paul II. That's why that bulletproof glass was brought in. So when he was visiting, we knew that he was coming with significant security risks, and to himself and to the people of South Sudan. So we put in place maximum security measures, and I'm glad that he came and stayed for 3 days without even a problem, because it would have been a very big shame for him to get assassinated here in the Republic of South Sudan. The third perception was that they adopt the visit as a peace pilgrimage to the Republic of South Sudan. And therefore, they were coming to enforce or to come and encourage our political leaders to keep on track the peace they had signed. And the retreat they took in Rome, if you could remember, their feet were kissed by His Holiness. So it was an encouragement to us, And we also wanted to let the people of in the region, in the whole world, that all the reports that you normally hear about South Sudan, that it is a very chaotic country. It is not true. Yes, there are problems here and there, but in as much as there are some hot spots, the capital, most parts of the country are very peaceful. So it was also, and we were looking at it, that we are a very peaceful nation, and that's why Pope was able to assess, his security team assessed, was it safe for the Pope to come? And they concluded that it was safe for him to visit the Republic of South Sudan and Juba in particular. Okay. So we viewed it that way. So if there are people who are saying that South Sudan is not very peaceful, yeah, there are small areas, but the word security is a relative word. There is no absolute security. South Sudan is peaceful, but it is not absolutely secure. There are some small areas with problems, and we in the security sector are doing our best to control the situation. So these were the three ways in which we had perceived the visit of Pope.
Okay, thank you so much. And to our viewer, thank you so much for following African Morning Breakfast Show. We are coming to you live right here in our studio from South Sudan capital, Juba. And to our viewers outside there, you can also follow us on SSBC TV Facebook page, whereby also we are live right now, right there. And up to here, my guest is Major General Lul Ruai Koang, the spokesperson of SPDF, who is helping us on the role that has been played by SSPDF and the organized forces during the 3 days apostolic journey of His Holiness Pope Francis and the Archbishop of Canterbury and the moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland to the Republic of South Sudan. Major General, let's find out from you. We believe that despite the role that you have been playing as SPDF and the organized forces, can you say it that the citizens were not denied access to meet and share their time with His Holiness Pope Francis, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and the moderator? Were there some restriction?
Thank you once again. On that question, I would totally say no. Civilians or citizens in the Republic of South Sudan were not denied access to His Holiness, the Pope, and the other 2 prominent religious leaders that visited. If you could recall, you were the one that was at the airport when he was arriving. We had a good number of people that turned up at the airport to receive him, and then a lot of people lined up the streets where he was passing along. And if you could remember, as he was driving all the way from airport to Presidential Palace, he was waving at crowds that had turned up, and went as far as reaching out to a small boy that was on the roadside and shook his hands. So that was an indication that there were no restrictions when he was going about his visit. Secondly, when he went to Kator, if you could remember, he was given maximum security, and we were also balancing the need for him to interact freely with the faithfuls. And if you could remember, there was a boy that reached out to him and gave him 100 SSPDF, SSP banknotes. Sorry. Sorry. SSP, 100 SSP banknote to him as a gift. And I think that image portrayed a very positive positive thing about us. It showed our generosity. If that small boy could get that money and give it to him, I'm sure that was the money he had all. So these are clear examples. And also I saw him in the church patting a baby or being hugged by a woman also. So these are indications that when he came and as he was going about his visit in all the places of worship, moving along the roads, he moved freely, and the people interacted with him in so many ways, like the ways I've just outlined.
Yeah, I want to take you back and look at the question of peace among South Sudanese. What impact do you think the papal visit, His Holiness visit, and other religious leaders impact in the nation?
Thank you once again. You know, the importance of that visit to the people of South Sudan, you know, our country is multilingual, is multi-ethnic, multicultural, and multi-religious. We have all these diversities as the people of South Sudan. But we have one thing in common. We are South Sudanese. We embrace our diversity, and it should be our strength. It should not be used for us to be divided. Bearing in mind that when the Pope came with his accompanying delegation, all of us with all our diversities came together, received him as people of South Sudan, celebrated with him at all the places of worship. So that was an indication that we gave importance to our unity. Secondly, it also sent a very good signal that with all our differences, a time comes when we come together as South Sudanese. And another important thing is that the lesson that we could also learn from the Pope is that he was able to mobilize the other religious leaders. If you could remember, there was a split within the Catholic Church in 1517 when Martin Luther King, the senior, protested, wrote about 95 reasons why he was breaking away from the Catholic Church. So these three religious leaders, ever since, it was the first time for them to make a joint journey to any nation. And I'm happy that South Sudan became second, because they visited Congo and then they came to the Republic of South Sudan. It was for the first time in 506 years, that's in 5 centuries, for the three leaders to reunite and make one journey. So it is very important, it's a lesson from us, that with all our differences that have been manifesting themselves, including our political differences, they could be put aside and reunite for the goodness of this country. Our differences are not very huge differences. When there was a split in the church, the Catholics fought against Protestants, the Crusades. So if you go to that church story, it was very bloody, the rivalry between the denominations. But now they have overcome it to an extent that they have reunited and making joint journey. So it is very important. Right? These are lessons that we could easily draw from the visit of His Holiness the Pope.
Okay, thank you so much, Major General. And before we go into the issues of challenges that we encountered during the visit of His Holiness, let's find out from you also as SSPDF. Now, after this visit, what role are you going to play after the visit of His Holiness? We believe that, yes, the 3 days, the army has been disciplined. And after these 3 days, what are you going to do to make the army continue to be disciplined?
Yeah, thank you. Before I get to that, this was the importance of the visit, the 3 areas or 2 areas that I had mentioned. Closely linked to that is the impact that was left on the people of South Sudan, according to your questions. The impact that was left by the visit of His Holiness the Pope, I just picked on 2. One, as the Pope left with his delegation, he left us with a very positive thinking that peace could be achieved in the Republic of South Sudan. His main focus, the Rome retreat, was to encourage the political leaders to work for peace. His visit with the other 2 leaders was also to continue encouraging our political leaders to work for peace. And that one is resonating very well with the people of South Sudan. He has left them with a very positive mindset that these people, these political leaders, will at least be touched by God through these 3 religious leaders to keep on their promises and implement the peace agreement in letter and spirit. That's one positive thing. Secondly, they boosted our faith in Christ. We, those who are from Catholic, they were presented by His Holiness the Pope, Those from Anglican Church, they were represented by Archbishop of Canterbury. Those from Scotland Presbyterian Church were represented by Greensfield. So these three faiths, they got a very big boost in their belief in Christ. So these are positive things that the Pope and his delegation left.
Okay.
Impact they created on the people of South Sudan.
There's this scenario whereby we know that in most of the public events in the Republic of South Sudan, when security is deployed to provide protection to the citizen, they always put on the attires, they always put on the military uniform. But during the 3 days visit of His Holiness, you cannot differentiate between who is the army, who is SSPDF, and who is police. But the fact remains that they were all putting on police uniform. Why?
No, I would beg to disagree with that observation. We had 3 layers of security, or 3 rings of security. We in the SSPDF were in our complete uniform. You know, we have 2 distinctive uniforms, the green and the combat, camouflage, the one with all of this color. We were covering the outer ring, okay? We're looking at the bigger picture in terms of security. We're deployed around Juba, all the major roads coming in and going out, we sealed those areas. The second ring was taken care of by South Sudan National Police Service with all its other wings like traffic, CID, all that, with different responsibilities. And then the inner circle was taken care of by the Secret Service, including Secret Service for His Holiness the Pope, because he also was he had the security personnel that were providing main security to him in addition to the one that we were providing. So we had appeared in our, you know, those who were required to put their respective uniforms did so. Those who were required by law to be in their plain clothes were also in their plain clothes. So that's why I'm saying we're different security organs with different capabilities assigned to different roles.
Because when the first day when His Holiness arrived from Juba International Airport, all the way from Juba International Airport to J1, which is Presidential Palace, the people who were deployed along the roads were wearing police uniform.
Correct. That's why I'm saying we had divided responsibilities in terms of security layers, the ones I've just outlined.
And I was told that all these people, they were not only police, they were including SSPDF. And that means they said the information they got from the security from Pope, that they don't need to see SSPDF or military personnel, the military uniform.
No, that's totally that's incorrect.
That is incorrect.
If you could remember, if you could recall in my interview earlier on, I said His Holiness the Pope is a head of a state. And you cannot have status of a head of a state. You become a head of a state because you have a country that qualifies you to be head of it. And for you to be a head of a state, you cannot be a head of a state without security. He had the security details, okay, that cooperated with us before they came, and that were cooperating with us when they came. And when you talk of security, you cannot have security personnel without guns. All right. The most important thing is a gun. You could be even naked, but as long as you have the tools, and then you qualify for that. So you had the security, whether they were in our uniform or they were in their uniform. This is a different thing altogether. But let me reveal to you and the viewers of your program, or SSBC, that Pope, being a head of a state, had his security details, and we're just supplementing the work they have been doing. And ever since the creation of Catholic Church, since the position Pope was created, they started having their own security details. Have you ever heard of the Swiss guards? They are there. Okay? If something came up with this propaganda, girl, Pope ma there issue security personnel, no.
Okay.
Yeah. I do not want to get into even the security personnel that we had assigned to him, including our military capabilities that we had assigned to him.
And even we don't want to go into that detail, but we need to cover what the mindset of South Sudanese were having on the security perspective.
No, I'm dispelling that now.
Yeah, and now let's find out from you also, as security was concerned, during the visit of His Holiness Pope Francis, now people wanted to know exactly the relationship and why His Holiness was guided too much by security, given the fact that he's a holy man, and others were feeling like, I believe you follow most of the social media. South Sudanese are fan of social media. We're like, oh, if this guy is the holy man, why is it protected like this, more than even our president?
But I touched on these issues earlier on in the interview, but let me repeat myself since it is not harmful. I told you when we were perceiving Pope, or we had viewed Pope in three ways. One of them is that he is a head of a state, and a head of a state is given a different kind of security. Go anywhere in the whole world, when the head of a state is visiting, he is given maximum security, because not everyone loves that head of a state. It is our record how many head of states got assassinated in their own countries or when they are visiting. J.F. Kennedy was assassinated. Am I right or wrong? President Reagan was nearly killed. He was shot and wounded. Okay? Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. We are talking of Americans. And many more. Here in the neighborhood, President Kabila, Laurent Kabila was assassinated, right? So if you have a head of state, not everyone likes a head of a state. There could be some people that are not happy with that head of a state, and he could be assassinated. That's one. We have a record, Pope John Paul having survived an assassination attempt on him in 1981. I just mentioned it. All right. So if his predecessor was nearly assassinated, what is the guarantee that he could be assassinated? So we have to put in maximum security, not to give any room for any stupid thing to be done on his own as the Pope.
Thank you so much, Major General. Thank you so much. Now let's go back to the challenges that you encountered during your work as SSPDF and the organized forces in providing protection to people of South Sudan. What were the challenges?
Thank you very much. I think this will be the last one, otherwise, unless maybe the viewers are having any questions. Of course, there's no work that could be done in any given area without challenges. In consultation with those who took part in provision of security, I had asked them to share with me the challenges that they had experienced in their capacities as the ones that were commanding the joint security forces, or the security forces themselves that were deployed. And one challenge that came on top of the list was that there was no enough budget allocated to security forces during the papal visit. The budget that was allocated to all the organized forces was too little, bearing in mind that we had started security preparations and operations 3 days or 4 days before his visit. Then when he visited, he remained in the country for 3 days. So we had been on maximum alert for 7 days. All right. So the money that was given to us was not enough. That was the biggest challenge. The second challenge was that there were domestic animals that were loitering on the streets of Juba, especially goats, sheep, dogs, that had a negative impact on traffic flow. And those who were given the responsibility, like personnel from from Directorate of Traffic, and the volunteers that were helping us in maintaining security to deal with that challenge. The third challenge was the security forces that were deployed got really tired. They had overworked for a whole week. There was an oversight. We did not rotate them. We did not put in place shifts. They did not work in shifts. Maybe you work for 8 hours, another team is deployed. So the ones that were deployed worked throughout. So at the end of it, we discovered that they were really, really very tired. Another fourth problem was on the eve of His Holiness visit, we held two parades, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. In the afternoon, after we briefed them, they went driving around in town in a show of force. You know, a show of force from a military perspective is used as a deterrent. You know, our security personnel were in their trucks, they were in their taxis with all their gear. So when they drove around Juba, we're showing the people of South Sudan that, look, don't temper when the Pope comes. This is the power that we have with all the organized forces put together. As they were going and as they were coming back, we realized that they were over speeding. Our drivers, the drivers for different military vehicles, they sped when they were going and they were speeding all over. So when we realized that, we came and told them, look, there are speed limits. So don't over speed. That was one challenge. That was another challenge. So basically, we had observed around 4 challenges. Now that brings us to the second. That's the A part of it. B part of it was then how did we address the challenges? Of course, the issue of having insufficient budget was raised by our command, but we were told that there was no more money. And as a result, we persevered with the little money that was given to us until we succeeded in accomplishing the task. After realizing that the drivers were over speeding, we came and briefed them. Our chief of defense, deputy chief of defense forces, our assistant chief of defense force for operations, General Tho Chang, came and briefed the drivers about the need for them to observe speed limits. And that one now, when they started deploying on D-Day and throughout, I'm very sure they observed the required speed limit. The issue of goods, domestic animals loitering around, so they were cleared. So basically, I'm happy we in the SSPDF and the organized forces would like to say a very big thank you to the people of South Sudan for showing unity, for behaving very well. Big thanks goes to the political leadership of this country that the visit, in my opinion, it was very successful. Before I make my concluding remarks,
yes,
it was very successful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Major General. Before we wind up this discussion, I want to take you back to the condolence message of His Excellency the President to the people of Keji and during the papal visit to the Republic of South Sudan. And I don't want us to go without touching something about that. It was really linked by international media houses that upon the arrival of His Holiness Pope Francis, many lives were lost in the Republic of South Sudan, one day before his visit to the people of the Republic of South Sudan. So what do you say about that as the spokesperson of SSPDF, and what measures did you put in place to keep protecting people of South Sudan with their properties, given their differences and whatever kind of conflict that they're having?
Thank you, Brother Major. To be honest, it was very unfortunate that lives were lost on the eve of His Holiness visit. Both lives were lost from cattle herders as well as the host community. It was regrettable. It was regrettable in the sense that any life lost, it is regrettable. And to make matters worse, it had happened at a time when the focus of the whole world was on the Republic of South Sudan. It portrayed us in a very negative manner. But of course, it's a country at war, and the country is emerging from war. And that was the bottom line why His Holiness the Pope came with the other two religions. They recognized that this country has been bleeding for too long, and therefore they needed to be encouraged, to be supported, to be given a spiritual food for them to stop killing themselves. That was the bottom line. You know, in South Sudan, we have been fighting over one thing or the other. The bigger picture is that this country has been experiencing political problems, political upheavals. But in addition to political upheavals we have been experiencing, our local communities have been fighting one another or each other over a wide range of issues, over grazing lands, over water points, over shared scarce resources. You know, there are fights over different reasons. People even fight because of an elopement. A young man elopes with a girl, you would hear that there was a big fight and this number of people got killed. But of course, they are happening as a result of the bigger picture. Politically, the country is not stable, but we shall overcome. What we did when the clashes erupted, we have our force that is deployed in Keji. I was able to hear from the county commissioner and the other county officials that they help in enforcing and enhancing security. But of course, we have three levels of government. We have the national level, the national government, we have the state governments, and we have the county governments. So the Keji county government intervened with all the security apparatus at that level, and including our own SSPDF.
Thank you so much.
But the political leadership is working on it.
Thank you so much, Major General, for making it to African Morning Breakfast Show on SSBC. Before I let you go, 1 minute, your message to the people of the Republic of South Sudan and to your colleague in the Army, SSPDF, and the organized forces.
I would like to conclude by saying, first and foremost, to you and the leadership of SSBC, thank you very much for always covering the national events with a special focus on SSPDF. And I'm very thankful to the leadership of SSPDF for always availing this coverage to SSPDF. You have been doing a very wonderful job for the last 7 years since I was appointed as the spokesperson. We are in focus simply because of SSBC. Thank you very much, and thank you to you. Secondly, once again, let me appreciate the political leadership for making it possible for the Pope and the delegation to visit us. That was a very big political work to convince the Pope to come. Thank you to the organized forces, the leadership of SSPDF, under the overall command of General Santino Denwall, the Chief of Defense Forces, and the senior officers he had assigned during the Papal's visit. A special thanks goes to South Sudan National Police under the leadership of General Majaga Kech and the officers that he had assigned, to General Akolkor, the Director General of National Security, for excellent work they did, to Director General of External Security Bureau, General Simon Yen Makwaj, he was on board, and to the presidency, especially the Presidential Secret Service, for a job they did. All of us, we put our efforts together, coordinated together, and did a wonderful job. So the group that we should not forget is the media authority under the leadership of Honorable Alier Kwai. He had the biggest work of accrediting over 391 journalists that came to cover the work of the Pope, including the National Communication Authority, Director General Napoleon Addock. All of us, let me take this opportunity. Congratulations for making South Sudan a very great nation. The Papal visit was a litmus test of our ability to organize, plan, coordinate, and all that. The outcome was very excellent. So thank you very much to everybody, to the people of South Sudan.
Thank you so much, Major General Lul Ruai Koang, for making it to SSBC. Go tell your colleague in the Army that the people of the Republic of South Sudan were happy with the discipline display in the last 3 days, but South Sudanese are still looking forward for that discipline in the rest of the lifetime of South Sudanese.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for following African Morning Breakfast Show right here on SSBC. We continue to bring you cross-cutting issues that need and matters to your life as the people of the Republic of South Sudan. For me, Majur Cholkor, and my colleague, the technical team in the studio, we say thank you so much for accompanying us, and stay tuned as you watch more of the program right here on SABC. And do have a lovely time.
Thank you.